Hello, everybody, and welcome to my new Rainbow Six Siege series, How to Play Rainbow Six Siege. So this series is going to be an in-depth series of how to play Rainbow Six Siege, from the very finite micro plays of Rainbow Six Siege that you see in the pro play games, to really just any general knowledge stuff. And this is episode 1, so today let's talk about operators. Now you may be saying, what's there to know about operators? Or if you're new to Rainbow Six Siege, you may be saying, what are operators? Well, operators are the characters you play as. I like to think of operators as, well, they're the champions of Rainbow Six Siege. If you play League of Legends, you know what I'm talking about. But I'm going to break down operators to make it really as simple as possible. So as you can see in the top left of the screen, you have a filter for all the operators. You have Intel, Anti-Gadget, Support, Frontline, Map Control, and Breach. Now, I think that's an overcomplication of Rainbow Six Siege. I like to make Rainbow Six Siege as simple as possible because it can be very overwhelming for new players. So we're going to break down the attack operators into a few categories that are a lot more easier to understand than this. So first you have hard breach operators. Hard breach operators are operators that you should really be playing on every round, not necessarily you, but someone on your team. Your hard breach operators are including Thermite, Habana, Ace, and Maverick. So those are the four operators you should be playing for hard breach. Now you may be saying, well, what about the secondary canister? So for those of you that don't know, some operators, for example, Fuse, have a secondary gadget, which is called a hard breach charge. And this is okay, but it's not as good as the original hard breachers. And the original hard breachers are better because, for example, Thermite can open walls at a larger scale. Habana is able to open more hatches than those with just hard breach gadgets. Maverick can open up any wall despite the denial on the wall, which we'll talk about in a second. And then Ace is a perfect balance of both. Ace can get hashes, can get walls, and he makes a big enough hole, and that's a really good reason to play him. Next, we have our Slayer operators, or fraggers as they're known. I like to really just simplify this as operators that are really meant to entry the map, open up the map, and get some frags. So these are operators like Ash, Zofia, and really anybody like Finka, IQ, Buck. They kind of give a good presence on attack. They can really open up the map. They can take map control. These are the guys that you're going to try to take the first engagements of the round with. If they die, it's okay. The round is not over compared to operators like Thermite and those kind of operators and things along those lines. These operators tend to have more destruction based gadgets so they can destroy counter utility of the defense. And these are operators that really serve a bunch of purposes. They each have their unique niches and gadgets that are really good for certain situations. So, for example, Ash and Zofia are great for destroying defensive utility. You have operators like IQ that are great for finding defensive utility. You have operators like Buck that are great for destroying defensive setups. And then there are just your in between operators that are really good for things like lurking. So, lurking is kind of when you just solo around the map. Knock is good for this. I think Jackal's a great lurk operator. People like to think of Jackal as a containment operator, which he is, but a lot of these operators are what I call multi-pronged operators. So what is a multi-pronged operator? A multi-pronged operator is an operator that can do two things relatively well. Jackal, for example, can roam clear or he can entry. Jackal can find the footprints of enemies and locate them, and that's what we can call a containment operator. So Jackal can find footprints and you as a team can hunt down the enemy. So that's a really good example of a Jackal situation. I think Jackal, Lion, and Dokkaebi are the three best containment operators in the game. So these are operators you want to play if you're struggling to deal with a roam and if you and your friends are having a hard time clearing the map. Next, you have your shield operators. Now, shields are a hot topic in Rainbow Six Siege because shields are obviously broken 90% of the time. Now, we're in the meta of Rainbow Six Siege where shields are broken. Your two main shields are going to be Montaigne and Blitz, and then you have Fuse, who has a shield, but people prefer the AK-12, and then you have flexible shields like Osa and Blackbeard. Blackbeard has a shield that covers his face, and Blackbeard is not that useful in today's meta, and Osa. Despite Osa being a shield, she has a gun, which is the PTW, and the 5.56, which is Thermite's gun, and Osa is really good for planting because she can place her shield, turn around, and start planting the case. And last but not least, the last sort of operators I like to bring up are the flank watch operators. So you have Zero, you have Nomad, you have Gridlock. These operators can kind of hold your own flanks. And then you have more operators that are in between. You have Ayana and Flores, which are good intel operators. You have Sense, which is a screen operator. You can set smokes, you can plant, things like that. And a lot of these operators kind of have in between gadgets. But at the end of the day, break it down into support. Well, I wouldn't say support. You want to break it down into entry, breachers, intel, and fraggers, and then things along those lines, if that makes sense. Again, I know that may seem very not clear cut, but that's because attacking isn't really clear cut. A lot of these operators have so many uses that they really do serve a purpose in every situation. I would say few to none of these operators are what I would consider a bad operator. Next, let's look at defense. Defense, again, you look at all these things right here. This may be overwhelming, but I just want to break it down into 4 categories. You have your intel, you have your traps, you have your wall denial, and you have your drone denial. So drone denial is going to be mute, Mozzie, and these operators really can also do 2 things. Mute is a multi-pronged defensive operator. Mute can drone denial and he can wall denial. So you can place a mute jammer to stop drones, you can place a mute jammer to stop the walls. What's another example of a multi-pronged op? Well, you have Capcan. Capcan's a trap operator, but his traps can also give intel based on where you place them. And on top of that, if you look at Capcan's secondary gadgets, he has. How do you see the secondary gadgets again? You would think after all the time I played this game, I would know how to find it. But he has a bulletproof and a nitro, so again, he can have the intel of his traps, he can have the intel of his bulletproof, and these are really good multi-pronged operators. Next, you have operators like Smoke. These are plant denial operators. Smoke, Echo is a multi-pronged operator, for example. Echo can use his yokai to drone around the defenders, kind of like an attacker droning in Ash, or Echo can use his drones for denial and intel. Again, multi-pronged operator, that's very important. A lot of these operators are so overpowered, you can use them for anything. And the way I like to think about defense best is how to play defense in Rainbow Six Siege. It's a big game of reactions. So I like to see how the round is playing out and react based on the situation. So for example, let's say I'm playing Echo. I like to use my Echo drones for 2 things. I like to use an Echo drone, in case you don't know, Echo does have 2 drones. I like to use my Echo drone to drone a roamer, and I like to pocket an Echo drone for sight. That way my Echo drones have a multi-pronged purpose. You're going to hear me say multi-prong a lot because it's the best way to describe Echo. Echo can drone his roamers to get an aggressive early round defensive kill, and Echo can play his Echo drones late so he can deny plan. Other good examples of multi-prong operators are Valkyrie and Mira. Now you may be saying, how is Mira a multi-prong operator? Mira is an intel operator. You place a Mira, you use it for intel. Valkyrie is an intel operator. You place a Valcam, you use it for intel. But these operators also have a ton of purpose otherwise with their gadgets and guns. And then you have your trap operators. Trap operators in Rainbow Six Siege are notorious for being so overpowered and broken. Fenrir is the most controversial op in defense right now, in my opinion. I know a lot of people complain about solos, but I honestly think Fenrir is infinitely more annoying. Fenrir has 5 traps, which you set and activate based on what you need. There's 3 that you can activate at a time, and that is rumored to be getting changed, but I don't know the exact details on that. Some other good trap operators are Frost and Legion. Now, people play Frost for the gun. Frost has a relatively strong gun, and then Legion has really good traps. Now, they're invisible. They don't do a lot of damage, but the good thing about them is they do give intel. And when you have a Legion trap in you, you can plant. Other operators that I think are really good that you should try playing are Doc. Doc is an overpowered healer. He can pick himself up when he's in a down but not out state. He's just a really good operator. So if you're new to Rainbow Six Siege, I love playing operators like Doc because, again, it helps you stay in the fight longer. And when we learn to play Rainbow Six Siege, when we stay in the fight longer, we learn the game. But these are really the categories of defense operators and attack operators. The best way I would describe it is play situations kind of reactionary. Think reactions. So understand what the opponent is doing and react accordingly. And that's how you're going to learn to play Rainbow Six Siege. Rainbow Six Siege is an FPS game, sure, but it's so much strategy. You can have all the gun skill in the world, but the best players in the world will outplay you based on maneuvering, understanding gadgets, understanding maps, and overall just anything else. But this was episode 1 of operators. Again, I could talk all day about operators, but this is just the kind of quick details of how to know what operator pick. There's 70 something operators in Rainbow Six Siege, 71 to be exact. And there's just a lot to learn. But with that being said, thank you for watching this episode. I don't know what episode 2 yet is going to be. For those that don't know, I have a TikTok, not make a TikTok. I have a TikTok where I cover way more in-depth Rainbow Six Siege. If you want to drop a follow, it's the same as my YouTube handle. But with that being said, guys, thank you for watching this video. Comment below what you want to see next, and I will help all players get better in Rainbow Six Siege. It doesn't matter if you're new. It doesn't matter if you're the best player in the world. I still believe I can make any player better. So let me know what you want to see next, guys.